I never imagined discovering the heartbreaking scandal of a queen torn between love and betrayal. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I stood there, breathless in that dimly lit chamber, where shadows danced across the walls like whispers of long-held secrets. The air was thick with tension, a palpable weight pressing down on my chest. I could feel it. Something was terribly wrong there. I was confronted by the striking image of Queen Arabella, a figure of grace and beauty, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Those familiar golden locks, usually so radiant, now seemed dimmed by dread. I couldn't help but wonder, what was consuming her? What darkness lurked behind that composed exterior? Rumors had spread like wildfire through the court. They spoke of late-night rendezvous, secret letters exchanged under the cover of night. I had witnessed it from a distance, her brief smiles, flirtations that caught everyone off guard. Those whispers. They sent shivers down my spine. But the truth? It was a jagged pill, and I feared the taste it could leave behind. I thought of her family, her devoted husband, King Theodoric, who wore his heart on his sleeve. I had seen him gazing longingly at her, blissfully unaware that shadows had crept into their fairy tale. Would he shatter upon discovering the truth? I could already picture the heartbreak etched across his face, the pulse of betrayal throbbing in the silence. Then there was Lyra, her loyal maid, who had stood by Arabella through thick and thin. But loyalty can be a heavy burden. I watched as Lyra's hands trembled while clutching a crumpled piece of parchment, the silence around us thick with unsaid words. What brutal truth gripped her? My stomach twisted in knots. The stakes were rising. Suddenly, a hushed gasp escaped my lips, breaking the charged silence like a shard of glass. I glimpsed the parchment. My hands shook. It was a love letter, stained with longing yet crying out for clarity. How had it come to this? Fortunes and kingdoms were at play, hearts hung in the balance. The tension clawed at my throat, and I could feel the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Arabella tilted her head, her expression hardening into something fierce and vulnerable all at once. You don't understand, she whispered, voice trembling. I'm caught in a web I can't escape. My breath caught. What kind of web entangled a queen? The vivid image of betrayal writhed in my mind. Fear and curiosity twisted together like a noose. The shadows shifted again, drawing me closer to the truth. A love affair with consequences. A broken trust that could demolish a kingdom. Could we ever reclaim innocence lost? My heart raced with both fear and excitement. I felt the pull, the urgency, the need to uncover the depths of her turmoil. As I looked into her eyes, the mystery deepened, the stakes higher. What if exposing this heartbreak led to devastation? Or even worse, silence drowning in secrets never meant to be uncovered. The room felt colder, heavier, a pressure cooker ready to burst. Every heartbeat echoed with anxiety. Just then, a loud bang echoed through the corridor, shaking us from our resolve. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs. I turned, wide-eyed, to meet Arabella's gaze. Was it the king? Had he found out? Or was it something far worse, the universe, conspiring against us all? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The echo of the bang reverberated through the chamber like the tolling of a bell, filling the air with an unshakable sense of foreboding. Arabella's eyes widened, a fleeting look of panic flickering across her delicate features. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The reality of her entanglement swept over me like a tide, threatening to engulf us both. Lyra, she breathed, turning towards her maid, whose grip on the crumpled letter faltered just slightly. Please stay quiet, I hissed, my own voice barely rising above a whisper, a desperate plea for caution. I felt the weight of our hearts, our dreams, our fears crashing down around us. What if this moment marked the beginning of an unraveling? The door trembled in its frame, as if something or someone was urging its way in. A suffocating dread filled the air, thick as fog. Did King Theodoric sense the tempest swirling around his beloved? My mind raced with unanswered questions, the darkness within our kingdom mirrored in our collective anxiety. The banging ceased, giving way to silence, a silence that felt laden with anticipation. Arabella's breath hitched as she glanced at the door, torn between the uncertainty of her future and the bond we had forged in this secret chamber. With every beating of my heart, I could feel its distance growing between who she had been and who she was becoming. "Arabella," Lyra said, her voice strained as she took a shaky step closer. "We need to decide how we will face this." "Face what?" I interjected, a swell of emotion welling within me. The truth? The betrayal? Or the love that could shred this kingdom to pieces? The depth of my frustration seeped out, mere words unable to convey the torrent of feelings brewing inside me. But before any resolve could solidify, the door flung open with a resounding crash, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows, a messenger, bearing the unmistakable seal of the king. My heart sank as I recognized the urgency plastered across the young man's face. "Your Majesty," he gasped, panting heavily as if he'd sprinted from the farthest reaches of the castle. "There's been a commotion in the throne room. A courtier has accused the Queen of treachery, of plotting with a foreign power." The words landed like arrows in the silence, sharp and cutting. The implications swirled around us, intoxicating and horrifying. Arabella looked as though she'd been punched in the gut, her complexion paling beneath the weight of this new knowledge. But there was a flicker of something else, an unyielding flame igniting within her eyes, determination laced with fear. Who has dared to spread such rumors?" she demanded, her voice steadier than I felt. I could see a woman awakening beneath the layers of worry and heartache. "Lord Cedric," the messenger spat, disdain etched across his features. "He claims to have witnessed a secret exchange between you and the Duke of Selwyn." A wave of anger surged through me, followed closely by a visceral sense of betrayal. It felt as though I'd been thrust back into that dimly lit chamber so many times before, the palpable tension returning with a vengeance. Lord Cedric had long harbored ambitions for the throne, and now it appeared he was wielding venomous words as weapons. "Lord Cedric is nothing more than a viper in our midst," I spat. "His jealousy will be his downfall." Arabella turned sharply towards me, her expression shifting to one of profound resolve. "Then I must confront him. I cannot allow this misconception to take root in the kingdom. I will not allow my love for Theodoric to be questioned." Lyra looked at me, panic dawning in her eyes. "But what if he uses this against you? What if your confrontation only escalates the turmoil?" In that moment, the gravity of our situation loomed even larger, the path ahead treacherous and uncharted. Every decision now carried the weight of kingdoms, tearing divisions between honor and desire, love and betrayal. "Then we stand together," I declared, surprising even myself with the fierceness behind the words. "Should we forge ahead, we do so united. It is the only way." As Arabella nodded and steeled herself, the shadows lengthened around us, and the air crackled with unsaid vows. There was no turning back. Each heartbeat echoed the fears we harbored, each moment before the confrontation became a life lived on the brink. But as we made for the door, one final thought flitted through my mind, a whisper of dread. Our moment of truth, the confrontation, might unravel not just her relationship with the king but the very fabric of the kingdom itself. When the time came, would we be prepared for the fallout? Suddenly, a figure stepped into our path, a face shadowed but unmistakable, Lord Cedric himself, and behind him a crowd of eager courtiers, their expressions eager for the spectacle to unfold. My heart jerked violently as I realized we had stepped into a trap far greater than we had anticipated. The truth would be our dagger, but who would fall victim to the blade? The air crackled with the tension of unspoken truths as Lord Cedric smirked, his posture oozing arrogance. Behind him, a line of courtiers whispered and nudged one another, eager for the impending drama. The sight filled me with an inconsolable dread. Every moment felt suspended, vibrating with potential catastrophe, while Arabella stood frozen, caught between outrage and despair. "Your Majesty," Cedric said, his voice dripping with condescension, "I didn't expect to find you hiding in such company." He gestured casually toward me and Lyra, as if we were merely an afterthought, irrelevant to the weight of the reality shifting beneath us. My eyes bore into Arabella, seeking reassurance that the bonds we had forged would withstand this venomous moment. The thrum of vulnerability pulsed low in my chest. Could we navigate this labyrinth of lies together, Cedric? Arabella said, her voice steady despite the tremors that laced it. You understand nothing of my heart or loyalties. You flourish only in the shadows you cast, and is that loyalty to the king, or to your friend? He interrupted, his tone taunting as he leaned in closer. The hungry whispers of the court swelled, each ear pricked, hanging onto his words with insatiable hunger. I hear the people whisper tales of you and the Duke of Selwyn, a dangerous liaison fraught with implications. Defiance blazed in Arabella's eyes. I will not be made a pawn in your games, Cedric, she declared. But fear flickered behind her bravado, twisting the knife further into my heart. Or poker, if you look at it differently, Cedric replied, glancing back at the crowd with a satisfied smirk. The stakes are higher than ever. You see, rumors have consequences. And I am but a humble messenger of the truth. Lyra stepped forward, her small figure trembling but bold. If you think to speak for the truth, then you honor nothing but your own ambition. Face us if you dare. We will not yield. Yield? Cedric's laughter echoed, harsh and mirthless. A lovely word, my dear Lyra, yet you fail to grasp the power of perception in this court. No one stands alone in the presence of accusation. The whispers of the courtiers intensified around us, stitched with every synonym of betrayal they could conjure. The spotlight of judgment bore down on Arabella, and I felt an instinctual need to shield her, to rage against this injustice. Yet, I feared that any spark of confrontation might further flare the blaze engulfing us. Leave this place. I found my voice, fueled by a desperation I hadn't known I possessed. Your presence is poison. You seek to ruin the nobility of our house, and for what? Your own pitiful desires. Cedric narrowed his eyes. You dare speak of nobility standing there with her love? Your heart is clouded, girl. A heart cannot reign on a throne. With a sudden surge of courage, Arabella stepped toward him, an unyielding resolve reshaping her presence. You think you know me? She shot back, fierce and unwavering. You are blind to the strength I possess. I am not alone. I stand with those I love. But the court had already recoiled at her words. The whispers shifted, a tide of scandal washed over them. I could feel the air twist, expectations turning sour. Love? Is that what you call it? Look around. Can a queen afford to fall in love with anyone other than her king? Cedric continued, his eyes dancing with delight at our unraveling. The world around me morphed into a blur, the colors dulled by the weight of uncertainty. My heart pounded, desperately standing sentinel against the fear gnawing at my insides. In that moment, it became apparent that our struggle for Arabella's reputation would carve paths through heartbreak deeper than I had imagined. Suddenly, an unexpected voice broke through the frenetic energy of the court, a soft yet trembling tone. My lady, it was one of the other servants, her loyalty sparkling in her innocent eyes. I believe Lord Cedric's intentions can be clear. He hides behind lies and takes aims at your name, not because of truth, but envy. Cedric turned, furious, eyes blazing. You dare question my motives? Cedric. Arabella said, her voice calm but resolute, you mistake envy for protection. I will not bend to the shadows of your cruelty. To speak of love is to breathe life into hope, and I will not have that diminished. A hushed silence fell over the court as she defied him, the walls of this gilded arena closing in around us. The crowd wavered, perhaps sensing a shift in the tides, but I knew they were still shrouded in withholding judgment. As the weight of Arabella's words hung in the air, reaffirming bonds of bravery and vulnerability, something else stirred in me, fear for our future, yes, but also a bloom of hope nestled within the turmoil. If we could navigate this moment, perhaps there was still light to be found in the darkest of shadows. But just as the tension reached its zenith, a gasp erupted from the crowd, drawing all attention away as another figure emerged from the rear, a woman cloaked in crimson, the edges of her gown whispering against the stone floor like a silent herald of calamity. My breath caught in my throat as recognition hit like a thunderclap. Queen Myrasol, her expression stormy, stood there, and as she raised her chin, a haunting realization set in his was no mere coincidence. She was here, and with her presence came more questions than answers. What treachery is unfolding in my court? She spoke, her voice commanding yet delicate, an echo of authority that both held dominion and beckoned truth from the shadows. As uncertainty wove deeper into the fabric of our plight, I sensed we were all but puppets, unwitting participants in a greater scheme as the cliff we stood upon threatened to crumble beneath us. And at that moment, with an audience watching and lives intertwined with fates unknown, I felt the rush of destiny pull us further toward the abyss. The atmosphere shifted palpably, tension coiling like a snake ready to strike. All eyes turned to Queen Mirasol, her crimson-clad presence amplifying the stakes of this dangerous game. I could see her gaze flicker between Arabella and Cedric, a silent calculation evident in her eyes, weighing the loyalties of each heart laid bare. "Your Majesty," Cedric spoke, arrogance layered over a thin veneer of concern. "What brings you to such a sordid display? Surely, as our queen, you have more pressing matters than meddling in a woman's romantic involvement." Arabella's sharp intake of breath made me flinch. The queen's calculated expression softened as she turned her attention to her potential rival. "Love is never sordid, Lord Cedric. It has the power to illuminate the darkest corners of our hearts and our court." Her voice, authoritative yet unmistakably warm, felt like a lifeline yanked from the edge of despair. "But what of betrayal, my queen?" Cedric pressed, his tone dripping with mockery. "When feelings blossom in shadows, does it not become impossible to separate trust from treachery?" In that moment, I saw Arabella struggle to keep her composure, the flames of vulnerability threatening to consume her. "Cedric seeks to turn love into a weapon," she countered, her chin lifted defiantly. "He knows nothing of loyalty but how to use it for his own gain." A murmur of surprise swept through the courtiers, but Mirasol raised her hand, halting its spread. "You speak well for someone so young," she remarked knowingly, acknowledging Arabella. "But your spirit could lead you astray. Or to freedom." Arabella's retort was fierce and unyielding. "Love can liberate or destroy, Your Majesty. I choose to stand by my heart, and that includes my friends." I felt a flicker of pride for her bravery, even as dread twisted in my stomach. Yet I couldn't shake off the concern threading through my emotions, the first true thread of fear stitching together with that pride. What if our unity was not enough against the snake in our midst? Amidst this quarrel of hearts, another figure emerged, cloaked in anonymity and anxiety. It was the servant who had spoken earlier, now more visible among the throng, her eyes wide with trepidation. "Your Majesty," she said, voice barely above a whisper but rich with urgency. "I've overheard whispers that silence." Mirasol commanded, her attention snapping to the servant with a steel glint in her eyes. "You will only speak if you wish to save yourself from the gallows." Fear trickled through the court like a dark poison, laced with violence. I felt Arabella's grip tighten on my arm, her fingers like a vice, mirroring my own growing anxiety. "Your Majesty," the servant quaked, but Mirasol's command held her captive, palpitating silence falling deep and heavy. "Speak." Mirasol allowed, but her tone held no hint of compassion. It suffocated instead, demanding obedience. The servant took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "There are rumors, dark ones, that not only speak of Arabella's affinity for the Duke of Selwyn but link him to Medraxis, the Black Mark of Brackenmore. They say he seeks the throne for himself, manipulating everyone around to grasp power. My stomach twisted as I processed the implications, thoughts racing like wildfire. Medraxis was a name that brought fear to even the bravest souls, not just a thief of thrones, but a harbinger of chaos. But what did this mean for the fragile truce that had just formed? Cedric seized upon the moment, stepping forward to press Mirasol with relentless invasion of clarity. "Do you see now, my queen? The very heart of our court pesters like a weevil beneath a crown. If the Duke is indeed involved, Arabella is merely a pawn in a larger scheme." Hope and defiance clashed in Arabella's eyes as they darted between Cedric and Mirasol, vulnerability mixing with a storm of fury. "You will not twist my heart into a vessel for your manipulation. The truth is mine to claim, and I will not let it steal my joy." "And how can you stand so boldly?" Cedric smiled, dripping contempt, "when the very fabric of your love is indeed tied to a traitor?" The word traitor hung heavy in the air, and as the court shifted uncomfortably, a fracture appeared in the solidarity of our small rebellion. Silence stretched as uncertainty seeped deeper into the cavern of the royal chamber, loyalty teetered on the precipice of doubt. While fear clawed at my insides, a leaden realization struck. My heart raced as I sought the nearest escape route, a desperate urge to wrap my arms around Arabella and protect our connection from the storm. Yet, before I could act, Mirasol turned and directed her piercing gaze to me. Tell me, Lyra, do you know of these whispers? Has anyone approached you with truths that hide beneath this web of lies? Her question echoed like a gunshot. All eyes turned to me, stripping me bare before the court. They didn't just expect an answer, they demanded loyalty. My heart hammered in my chest, guilt washed over me like a tidal wave. What had I heard in whispers? What had I kept hidden? I opened my mouth to speak but found only a swell of emotion clinging to my throat. In that moment, everything hinged on the choice I made, and the fragile threads of our connection dangled ominously, lit by the fire of uncertainty. This moment could either save us or plunge us into dire straits. But as I looked into Arabella's worried eyes, a sudden dread engulfed me. If I revealed everything I had heard, would it only serve to deepen the fracture between us? Would it expose the truth of what we were so desperately seeking to protect? My lady, I stammered, broken by the enormity of it all. But the weight of silence carved deeper into my chest with every breath, and unable to hold back the truth, I felt the tempest of emotions rising dangerously, grander than anything I could bear alone. Just as I began to muster the resolve to speak, the doors swung open, revealing a cloaked figure just beyond the threshold. With a confident stride, he entered, accompanied by a gust of wind that seemed to whistle discontent through the ornate halls. Eyes fell on him, curiosity peaked surrounding an unexpected arrival, an unknown player in the elaborate game of hearts and thrones. As recognition loomed above, I felt the dark, gnawing fear constrict my breath. The name that hung in the air felt like a noose tightening. Selwyn. This was no mere court appearance, this could shift everything. I felt my voice tremble as the new figure met my gaze, his eyes filled with understanding but also a challenge. What truths would emerge now, and at what cost? The tension in the chamber thickened like murky fog as Selwyn's presence settled over us, drowning out all remaining noise. Arabella's eyes widened, and I could see her pulse quickening. She had almost lost her footing, a familiar turmoil rising anew between defiance and confusion. The flickerings of hope I had felt moments ago were now muddied with fear and uncertainty. With a slow assertiveness, Selwyn removed his hood, revealing the sharp angles of his face that I had come to know too well. Disbelief rippled through the court, a mix of whispers building an unexpected crescendo, filled with intrigue and wariness alike. He was supposed to be a friend, a confidant, and yet my heart whispered a more sinister possibility. Had Cedric's poisonous seed sown truth? Selwyn, the Queen's voice came, fragile but commanding, inciting a ripple of startled gasps. Why have you entered unannounced? I bring news, he replied, his gaze scanning the tension-laden room with practiced resolve. News that is vital for us all, especially for you, my lady. His words cut sharp and clear, echoing in that cavern of uncertainty. The eyes of the court shifted between him and Arabella, judgment hanging like a guillotine. News, or more deceit? Cedric interjected, his tone sour. The shadows on his face deepened, amplifying the contempt he held for Selwyn. We've heard enough of threats disguised as propagandist truth. Ignoring him, Selwyn stepped closer to Mirasol. Your Majesty, I fear for the Duke's ambitions. Many are rallying under his banner, and the whispers I bring speak of your kingdom's instability should these unholy alliances remain unchecked. If you're here to sow discord, they'll have you thrown into the dungeons. Mirasol's voice was ice, breaking like thunder above the low murmurs of the crowd. No, Selwyn countered, I'm here because I care for you, for this kingdom, and for the fragile bonds of loyalty among us. Arabella deserves to know the truth. Arabella stood still, rooted as if Selwyn's words were chains binding her to the truth she dreaded. I do know the truth. I stand by my heart, and my allegiance to you, Selwyn. Her voice trembled, a mix of anger and hurt, directed not just at him but at everything this moment represented. Even if that heart places you in danger? His face softened, but determination flickered behind his words. Do you understand what this means? Everyone here must decide which side they are on, and that includes you. The air crackled with possibility as I sensed a split forming within the court, decisive allegiances forming like storm clouds gathering before a rainstorm. I couldn't help but wonder where Cedric's loyalties truly lay, and what game he was playing while threats loomed. Enough with veiled threats, Cedric replied, vexed. Secrets drown the purest of hearts, Selwyn. If we are to safeguard our lives, we must extinguish the embers of this reckless loyalty. Reckless? Arabella's voice cracked with frustration. Is love to be treated like an infection that festers until cut away brutally? Sometimes, Selwyn interjected softly, his gaze piercing through to her. The truth cuts deeper than any blade, Arabella. Her expression softened for just a moment, the words weighing as if laden with lead. I saw how she battled against the tide of his thoughts, the yearning to see their hearts connected once more, like sun and sky. Yet doubts danced dangerously close to her heart, powered by uncertain allegiances and the threats of betrayal. Arabella, Selwyn continued, we are not alone in this struggle. I can reveal to you paths unrevealed, windows of opportunity that lead beyond the acerbic tongues of this court. Opportunity or manipulation? She countered sharply, unwilling to embrace his words entirely. You accuse others of treachery, and yet you walk into this court cloaked in half-truths. The clash of emotions etched across Selwyn's face perhaps mirrored my own confusion. He grasped at her fiercely yet tenderly, concern threading his brows. I only ask you to trust me, trust in something more than just whispers among the shadows. For a brief moment, I caught a glimpse of hope, the spark lighting in the murky depths ahead. Surely under the right circumstances, the truth could yet prevail. But my own heart trembled, knowing that trust often danced on the very edge of the darkest abyss. The walls of the hall seemed to close in, and through the fray of clashing loyalties, I felt a pressing urge to speak. The danger of silence lay heavy upon my chest, burning fiercely within. Marisol and Selwyn had spoken of protecting the kingdom, of choosing sides. And yet, my voice, held captive by fear, quaked beneath a tide of unspoken truths. The unsettling tension snapped like a taut thread when Arabella turned to me, her face painted with the weight of uncertainty. Lyra, you've been quiet. What of the whispers? Do you know more? Caught in her gaze, I felt paranoia creep in me, heart racing against the realization that I had been wrestling with much more than the undertow of secrets. It was the lurking shadows of loyalty that threatened to engulf us all. Suddenly, another figure emerged from the shadows, a brief flicker of masked intentions. A glance from the corner of my eye caught an entrance along the far wall, where one more person stood hidden yet present, uneasily shifting from one foot to the other. A figure I inexplicably knew, silhouetted against the ominous backdrop, a ghost I thought I had allowed to linger in the past. The name came to me with horrifying clarity, Medraxis, and with it, a nagging suspicion stirred within me. The web that had almost caught Arabella seemed to extend further than we dared to tread. Lyra, Arabella's voice was now a desperate whisper. Will you choose to speak or remain in the shadows? But before I could answer, the heavy echoes of the royal chamber turned electric, and all eyes shifted toward the doors, which abruptly swung open again. Another player in this elaborate game had arrived, and with that arrival, a flood of unease churned within me. This revelation, this figure whose name was tied to friendship and betrayal alike, threatened to turn our fragile reality asunder. With a gasp, I realized everything rested precariously on the cusp of one truth, a decision that would either unravel our tangled fates or bind us tight, a choice that could shatter everything we held dear, including our deepest bonds. And the stakes had just risen higher than I could have ever anticipated. The air thickened with dread as the figure at the door stepped inside without hesitation. The low murmurs of the court transformed into a palpable silence, each breath hitching in collective disbelief. My mind scrambled for clarity, racing against the undeniable dread that Medrax's childhood friend turned shadow had re-emerged at precisely the worst possible moment. His eyes scanned the room, landing on Selwyn, then Arabella, before finally resting on me. The familiarity in his expression sparked a rush of forgotten memories, years of laughter intertwined with the dread of our last encounter. I hadn't seen him since the day everything had unraveled, and yet now, here he was, laced with secrets I could hardly fathom. Medraxis, the queen spoke his name with a mix of caution and refreshment, as if savoring the taste of something both sublime and bitter. What brings you here, to court in these turbulent times? I've come, he said, his voice both calm and purposeful, to speak of an alliancia gathering of forces that you might not yet fully comprehend. He lifted his chin, casting a slow, deliberate gaze across the court, locking eyes with Cedric momentarily. The tension in the air crackled anew, nonverbal histories unfolding silently. Arabella's hand unconsciously drifted toward Selwyn's, as if seeking reassurance, while I felt like a tethered feather, caught between lingering attachments and the impending storm. The flickers of hope from earlier moments now seemed cautious, almost desolate in the face of Medrax's uncertain return. An alliance. Selwyn scoffed, his voice low but filled with fury. Do you throw the word around as casually as you throw lives away? Last we spoke, your alliances bordered on treachery itself. Medraxis smirked, a flicker of mischief mixed with something deeper. I am no longer the boy who threw rocks at your grand ambitions, Selwyn. I have witnessed things in the shadows, alleys where truth and deception converge. Enough riddles, Cedric insisted, stepping forward as if determined to seize control of this unfolding narrative. Whose side do you take, Medraxis? This kingdom needs alliances built on truth, not half-spoken promises. Then you seek the wrong man, Medraxis replied evenly, glancing sidelong at Selwyn, and I saw the stir of unspoken words passing between them. I return with knowledge but speak only truth. There are factions within the court that ally with outside forces, a coalition keen on manipulating our discord. He turned his gaze toward Arabella, who trembled with a flicker of recognition. Perhaps they harbored a history that had slipped through the cracks of memory. What do you mean by outside forces? Arabella asked, her voice emboldened, her grip around Selwyn's hand tightening like a vice. Who dares threaten us? The iron grip of Lord Carneth is spreading, Medraxis warned, his voice grave. I find myself caught in the crosshairs of their schemes, but I would rather be a part of the solution than the chaos. We all must choose which path to follow. The choice will be made for us. An icy chill slithered down my spine as shards of bitter reality sliced through the tension. Medraxis had trafficked in secrets before, weaving webs of his own. How could we trust him now? The heavy weight of uncertainty pressed upon us all like a cloud ready to burst. What stops us from merely considering this another scheme of yours? Selwyn's voice rose, tension crackling like a storm above us, coiling tighter around the court. You speak of truths while masking your own, because, Medraxis said, an edge of vulnerability threading through his bravado, I seek redemption, both for the things I've done and the ghosts that haunt me. Arabella's demeanor shifted, a flicker of understanding softening her features as she took a step towards him. You were always drawn to your shadows, Medraxis, but the past remains unchanged unless we choose to confront it. It was you who implicated me, he countered, his gaze hollowing as he met her eyes. After what transpired, leaving the kingdom was my only option. It was an exile beneath clouds of mistrust. A weighty silence enveloped us as if the walls themselves craved to hear all our unspoken truths. Perhaps nothing would shift unless we faced our choices head-on. The throne cannot remain shackled to betrayal, Selwyn said, his voice barely trembling against the walls. But we must tread carefully. Suddenly, echoes of fading laughter and fading strength rippled through me. I held my breath as a new idea dawned upon me, the realization that perhaps the tides could turn, its course dictated by the truths we unearthed. Medraxis, I implored softly, my heart free-falling into an unknown depth. What truth leads you back? What your lives? He interrupted swiftly, his eyes now intense as he approached me, edging closer. Are tethered by the very heart of this kingdom's fate. And once that heart has stopped beating, everything within our grasp will fade into shadows. With chilling clarity, I understood then that his return was woven into the fabric of our lives, each thread a risk, destined to unravel yet also to bind us tighter. How much more of this fragile alliance could we withstand? Just as I processed this shifting weight of destinies colliding, the double doors opened once more, an authoritative figure stepping inside. My heart dropped, an agonizing churn in my stomach. It was Lady Eloan. Her eyes, filled with a mixture of urgency and distress, swept across the room before settling upon me. Lyra, she breathed, we are all in grave danger, a greater threat than we have prepared for. You must listen. Her proclamation hung in the air thick with foreboding, weaving suspicion and fear into our fragile tapestry, and I realized with dawning dread that our choices, our fears, and the tread of bitter secrets had not ended. The real game was just beginning. As Lady Eloan's urgent words echoed in the chamber, the air crackled with tension. My heart raced, teetering on the precipice of despair. My mind grappled with the implications of her arrival, an uninvited messenger bearing tidings that could shatter our already teetering alliances. What do you mean, Eloan? I asked, my voice edged with desperation. What is this greater threat you speak of? She stepped forward, her gaze misty yet resolute, as if she had been forced to carry a burden too heavy for her slender frame. It's about the alliances you talk of. There are murmurs, dark rumors that two factions are conspiring within the castle, painting a false picture of loyalty while plotting your downfall. Thieves seized the moment, capitalizing on your discord and turning it against you. Gasps erupted around the room, but I felt like I was drowning in her revelations, sinking deeper into a sea of uncertainty. My pulse thrummed erratically as Selwyn stepped closer, protective yet wary. Who are these factions? He pressed, urgency threading through his words. If there's treachery amongst us, we must know. Information is scarce, but I believe they are gathering in secret, Loan replied, her voice trembling. I heard whispers of a meeting tonight, near the old watchtower. If we do not act quickly, all we hold dear may be swept away. I felt the weight of responsibility settle squarely on my shoulders. The fate of our kingdom, of the people I loved, hung on our next decision. But as I searched the faces around me, I could see the worry etched in their features, the uncertainty quivering in their eyes. How could we move forward when the very ground beneath our feet felt like shifting sands? Whatever is happening, we must approach this with caution, Cedric interjected, his gaze unwavering. I will not see another betrayal tear us apart. Then we focus on gathering intel, Medraxis offered, his demeanor shifting from self-assured to contemplative. I will venture to the watchtower, without dragging anyone into unnecessary danger. I can gather information and return swiftly. A deep silence shrouded the court, shifting into a chorus of conflicted thoughts. I felt the heat of numerous stares on me, torn between wanting to support Medraxis and the instinct to protect him, protect all of us. Are you sure we can trust you, Medraxis? Arabella asked, a flicker of fear igniting her voice again. You cannot roam the shadows alone. The stakes have never been higher. I am well aware of that, he replied firmly, but a flicker of doubt danced across his features. And if it's trust you require, then let me prove my loyalty. I will not allow our past to dictate our present. We can be allies in this, for the sake of what this kingdom means to us. His words began to weave a thread of tentative hope in my heart, and yet I couldn't shake the shadows of doubt. What if he was maneuvering behind our backs, playing his own game for his own redemption? Uncertainty threaded through my mind. Lyra, Selwyn's voice broke into my thoughts, calm yet resolute, you must make the final call. We have all seen how fear can twist our actions to betray even the ones we love most. If we go into this, we need to be united. The weight of their collective gaze bore down on me, and in that moment, I felt my heart stretch thin, vulnerable, yearning for the stability of truth and trust that seemed so out of reach. I glanced at Eloan, whose eyes shone with unwavering loyalty, yet there was something deeper, something like fear lurking behind her brave facade. Then I make a choice, I said gently, the words flowing from me with cautious determination. We will all go. We will face whatever lies within those shadows together. If Medraxis has information to share, we must be present to ensure the bond of trust remains unbroken. A sense of newfound resolve spread through the room, tangling with the tension, and my stomach fluttered with the adrenaline of uncertainty. Together, we would navigate this unpredictable storm even if the very water that upheld us was tinged with betrayal. But just as the atmosphere began to shift toward unity, a sudden sound shattered the resolve. A loud crash echoed through the court, reverberating off the stone walls. The doors swung open violently, revealing a cloaked figure, drenched from the rain outside, with wild eyes burning bright with urgency. Lady Eloan. A voice, terse and deeply familiar, emerged from the shadows. They are coming for you. Now. Everyone turned, bewildered and alarmed, as realization dawned on me. I knew that voice. It was Adric, my brother, the one I had thought lost forever. Standing there, disheveled and breathless, the storm raging behind him only served to deepen the impending sense of treachery. What do you know? I demanded, hope and despair colliding within me like thunder rolling through the darkened clouds above. What is happening? A plot, Lyra, Adric gasped. It goes deeper than you think. I was in the market when I overheard them, he faltered, his gaze darting to where Selwyn stood. There are plans, dark plans, to replace the throne with a figurehead. Someone from within. My heart thudded violently as the incomprehensible weight of his words sank in, wrapping around me like vines threatening to suffocate. The ground felt unsteady beneath me as a sudden realization crystallized in the silence. We were not just battling for our lives, but for the very kingdom's soul, and somewhere buried within the chaos was the truth waiting to be unraveled. Fate had drawn the curtain, its dark shadow consuming the air. A truth whispered through the storm, tangling with our fears, and as the storm raged on outside, I understood, we were standing on the edge of a precipice, one misstep away from the heart of darkness that could shatter everything we once held dear. The momentum of Adric's revelation sent a ripple through the court, shockwaves reverberating among the gathered allies. Eyes darted between him and the others, every face alight with fear and uncertainty. If there truly was a figurehead plotted against us, then the ground we stood on was built upon lies. My thoughts resounded a clarion of apprehension and desperate need for clarity. Who is this figurehead? I demanded, stepping closer to Adric. Do you know who is behind this? He shook his head, a thread of despair weaving through his voice. I only heard names, fragmented pieces in a web of conspiracy. But there was talk of the council, discontent brewing beneath their loyalty. Those who were once your allies. His voice trailed off, leaving the unspoken fear hanging thickly in the air. Selwyn stepped forward, his expression tense with determination. We can't stand idly by. We need to gather evidence. This is a call to arms, not just for ourselves but for everyone who still believes in you, Lyra. The warmth of his support washed over me momentarily, but the chill of Adric's warning lingered. We must approach this carefully. Trust is a fragile vessel in times like these. I took a breath, grounding myself as I wrestled with the tumult of feelings churning within. Loan reached for my hand, her grip reassuring yet fragile. We are stronger together, she said softly. But we need to find truth. A plan, Lyra. We need a plan. As I looked around the room, faces emerged from shadows, their expressions molding from fear to resolve, yearning for guidance. Each person in our midst carried a thread of destiny that intertwined with mine. But the idea of deception lurking among us felt like a riptide, pulling me under. How do we discern loyalty from treachery? I wondered aloud, hoping for an answer that might untangle the threads of my mind. Arabella, stepping closer, her voice steady, broke the silence. We hold a council tonight, she suggested. Under the guise of a regular meeting, we can watch for those who flinch at the mention of loyalty to you, my queen. Her eyes held fire, fierce and unwavering. We won't go down without a fight. Then let it be so, I agreed, a spark igniting within my heart. But we proceed with caution. As the court began to buzz with planning, a small warmth crept back into the edges of my heart, an ember that flickered with hope. Perhaps we could dismantle this plot before it consumed us after all. But then, another thunderclap splintered the air, and my moment of comfort shattered. A hooded figure stepped from the shadows of the corner, face obscured but presence demandingly palpable. You think they will come for you because they fear you? The voice was rich and laced with contempt. You are mistaken, Lyra. Who are you? I demanded, taking a step back as unease cascaded through the room. The figure chuckled softly, an echo that sent a chill racing down my spine. You seek truth, yet you remain blind to the heart of the deception. The figure pulled down the hood, revealing a face etched with familiarity, rich with hidden pain, a mirror of my own spirit. Valeria, I breathed, disbelief washing over me. You're supposed to be dead? She interrupted, her eyes two storms colliding, both fierce and mournful. I thought so too, until I learned the truth, how betrayal festers in the dark, undermining everything it touches. Her voice held both a venom and a sorrow, as if she carried the weight of the kingdom on her shoulders. The room stood still, breath caught like a sword poised to strike. Adric looked bewildered, while Selwyn and the others exchanged glances, their shock echoing my own. I came to warn you, Lyra, Valeria continued, her voice softening momentarily, but the intensity of her gaze remained unwavering. Trust no one, not even those you love. It could lead to your end. What do you mean? I pressed, every fiber of my being fighting against the truth that hung in the air. Loyalty is a mirror, she whispered. Look deeper, and you will find shadows lurking behind every reflection. I lost everything because I chose to trust the wrong person. Her words struck me like arrows, piercing the illusion of safety I had clung to. This was a feeble grasp, barely holding us together, and yet now it felt like the very ground might crumble. Take caution in your counsel, she said, her voice tightening with urgency. The danger is closer than you think. Before I could process her revelation further, her form flickered, shadows swallowing her whole like a whisper in the wind. I stumbled back, my heart racing with a newfound sense of trepidation. The room surged with chatter, questions, concern, but I felt a vacuum opening beneath me. Every face, every ally, now harbored secrets layered beneath their trust. In that moment, The flickering light of hope dimmed, consumed by the crawling shadows of doubt. Lyra, what did she say? Selwyn's voice, steady and filled with concern, pulled me from the abyss. I met his gaze, my heart heavy, words escaping my lips with an unexpected weight. She warned that our greatest betrayal lies among us, that trust can be our downfall, and she's right. As the air thickened with tension, we couldn't escape the truth that now loomed over us. Each ally was a potential enemy. And in the heart of darkness, I realized the battle was no longer just for survival, it was for the very soul of our kingdom. The council convened that evening, a gathering of seemingly loyal allies turned potential adversaries. I stood at the head of the long table, my heart heavy with the weight of Valeria's ominous warning. Shadows danced on the walls as flickering candles threw light upon faces that I once believed were unwavering in their support. Now, every smile might mask treachery. Selwyn took a place beside me, his presence a steadying anchor. As he subtly displayed confidence, I couldn't help but glance over at Adric. His expression was tightly wound, threads of anxiety visible behind his facade. I tried to read his thoughts, but they were hidden as intricately as my doubts about my counsel. I want to thank you all for coming tonight, I began, my voice more confident than I felt. As you know, the stability of our kingdom hangs by a thread, and tonight we must put aside our trepidations to forge a path forward. A palpable silence filled the room, and I surveyed the faces around. Miss Amiga, others somber, a few whispering behind turned faces. Arabella spoke first, breaking the stillness. We must strategize a way to uncover this conspiracy, but we must do so with caution. If even a whisper of distrust spreads, we may find ourselves without allies at all. How do we know whom to trust? How do we even begin? Adric's voice quavered at the edges, and I saw a flicker of vulnerability. It was a sharp reminder that beneath our roles as leaders, we were all just humans, fearful and fragile. That's precisely it, I replied, squaring my shoulders. We cannot fight shadows if we remain blinded by fear of betrayal. We need to set traps, like the hunters who work their way through the forest. I paused, feeling the weight of my own words. We operate together but with keen eyes on one another. The room fell silent once more, weighed down by the sincerity and the severity of my proposal. Finally, Selwyn spoke softly, that requires a delicate balance. We must protect our hearts as fiercely as we protect our lives. Perhaps we should divide tasks, ensuring we work in pairs, if only to lessen the risk of one being taken by deceit while the other stands unaware. A murmur of agreement rose, and I felt a flicker of unity, but it was almost immediately doused by the remnant fears that prowled the edges of my consciousness. I turned to Eloan, her brows furrowed as she deliberated quietly, and an unexpected warmth surged through me. Do you believe we can excavate the truth? I asked, vulnerability spilling from my heart. Eloan's gaze softened. The truth, my queen, is often forged in the fires of betrayal. We will unearth it together. But we must also remember to nurture our own bonds, for love is the strongest armor against the threat of malice. Before I could respond, the sound of boots echoing against the stone floor interrupted our gathering. A guard entered, his expression grim as he stepped forward. My queen, he began, breathless, urgent news from the eastern border. We've spotted an unexpected caravan approaching, cloaked and armed. They bear the sigil of our kingdom, but their intent is unclear. The air stiffened, a new anxiety tightening around us like a vice. What do they want? I pressed, heart racing. Unknown, but they have not initiated communication. It seems they intend to arrive by nightfall. A palpable unease settled among us. The council was no longer about betrayal alone, now it extended beyond these walls, threatening the very lives of everyone present. The gathering splintered into questions and concerns, voices rising as uncertainty spiraled, but in that chaos, I noticed Selwyn's intense gaze upon me. He leaned in closer, urgency lighting his eyes. We can't afford to wait blindly for answers. There's too much at stake, our very lives are unsettled. Perhaps we should flee? Adric cut in sharply, his face pale. What if they come to kill us, then we'll truly have lost everything. No. I interjected, my determination strengthening with each heartbeat. We will stand our ground. This kingdom is ours, and we will not let it fall to the shadows. But we must do so with caution, ready for anything. Perhaps we can gather information before they arrive. The others nodded hesitantly, murmurs of resolve trickling back into our atmosphere, but I couldn't pause to relish the moment of unity. An eerie premonition clung to the air, each heartbeat reverberating like a distant drum roll heralding a storm. As the night deepened, we prepared ourselves for the looming confrontation, setting the room into a flurry of strategizing and quiet contemplation. Yet in that energy thrumming around us, in the camaraderie maturing over plans and decisions, I felt a gnawing dread, the feeling that Valeria's words were curling deeper into the core of our assembly, further fracturing the very foundation we sought to protect. And then, just as the lanterns flickered in the wind, a shadow passed the window, one unmistakable silhouette that cloaked itself in darkness, making its way towards the heart of our kingdom. In that moment, the truth dawned, a sinister realization resting heavily upon my spirit. Could the third betrayal be upon us? A familiar face-turned adversary? My heart plummeted with the implications. I stood, muscles taut, my mind racing, caught between the twin shadows of hope and despair. The shadow neared, and I felt the echo of betrayal wrapping tighter around my heart, each breath stale and tinged with the fear of discovery. This was no longer just about the unseen enemy, it was a fight against the very mirrors of our souls. Prepare yourselves, whispered, knowing that betrayal was lurking at our doorstep, and the echoes of our past would soon ripple through the present. Silently praying, I hoped we could uncover the truth before the darkness consumed us all. The night air hung thick with tension, every breath a reminder of the peril we faced. As I watched our candlelit gathering, each flicker seemed to echo the dance of uncertainty unfolding beyond the castle walls. With a quickened heartbeat, I commanded my scattered thoughts to coalesce, knowing that the true battle lay ahead, not just against the impending caravan, but within the fragile web of trust we had woven among ourselves. With a steely resolve, I addressed my allies, energy humming in the space between us. We must unify, not just against the shadows beyond, but within the very heart of our gathering. We stand on the precipice of chaos, and our strength relies on each other. I locked eyes with Selwyn, Adric, and Eloan, feeling the warmth of their solidarity spread like wildfire through the room. As the minutes dripped away, anticipation swirled around us. We strategized, voices converging into plans and possibilities. Yet, despite our shared determination, I felt the weight of Valeria's warning pressing down upon me, a constant reminder that betrayal could bloom in the unlikeliest of places. Time slipped away, the darkness outside inching closer as the eastern caravan approached. Tension coiling tighter than a noose, hearts raced, anticipation building like a storm about to break. Every creak of the floor echoed like a heartbeat, each distant sound growing heavier in the silence, and the unexpected light door swung open, revealing a figure cloaked in mystery. I gasped, a rush of emotions flooding through me as recognition set in. It was my father, King Theodoric, long thought lost. His eyes darted across the gathering, filled with urgency, determination etched into his every feature. "Lyra," he called, his voice breaking through the tension, "I have returned to fight for our home." The room stilled, a sudden shockwave coursing through our ranks. Whispers exploded into a frenzy, loyalty thrummed like electricity in the air. My heart surged with hope, yet questions churned just below the surface. "Father, where have you been? What brings you back now?" I pressed, caught in a whirl of confusion and joy. He stepped forward, the weight of unseen battles bearing down on him. "The kingdom's stability is at stake. The forces arrayed against us are stronger than we ever anticipated. I've been gathering intelligence in the shadows, witness to betrayal that festers within these very halls." The air grew thick with tension, every gaze turned toward him, awaiting revelation. "The council you have in place? Not all of those among you are to be trusted," he continued. "Lord Cedric and his faction have formed alliances with those yearning for your downfall. For too long I believed in the vow of my silence, but in the face of your peril I can no longer remain in the shadows." A wave of realization crashed over me. Had I unknowingly walked alongside danger all this time? The cocoon of familiarity now felt unbearably fragile. I shifted, scanning the faces of those I thought I knew, their expressions veiled and uncertain. Selwyn stepped closer to me, whispers of apprehension dancing in his eyes. "If he speaks truth, then we must act swiftly. Their plots extend beyond courtly whispers. We must counteract their next moves before they blindside us." Theodoric nodded, resolute. "Together, we must bear arms against deception. Tonight, We shall unveil these traitors and root out this growing conspiracy before it can ensnare our kingdom. As we united, crafting strategies to confront the rising tide of treachery, a surge of power coursed through me, a newfound sense of agency. My father was back. Perhaps the shadows would no longer haunt us, we had a chance to reclaim our destiny, but then, with a sudden jolt, a familiar cliff of dread washed over me. The caravan approaches, I said softly but urgently, aware that the fragile threads of trust could unravel at any moment. If there's betrayal lurking within our ranks, we must stand steadfast. The air grew electric, charged with uncertainty as we prepared to face the imminent confrontation. And in that moment of tension, balancing perilously on the edge, a shadow caught my eye, a figure slipping discreetly away just beyond the doorway. Stay vigilant, I warned, my voice barely above a whisper. Trust your instincts, keep your eyes peeled for those who would rather watch us fall than rise together. The moment stretched on, and as we braced ourselves against the encroaching darkness, uncertainty swept through us like a chill wind. We took our positions, every heart pounding, my own thundering as I inhaled deeply, knowing that the coming storm held the power to alter the course of our lives forever. Then came the knock, heavy and foreboding. Uncertainty throbbed in the air as all eyes turned toward the door, breaths held in anticipation, fear blooming between us. The very essence of trust stood on a knife's edge. With a shared glance of resolve, I crossed the threshold, pushed open the door, and beheld the faces of those who stood before me. Figures cloaked in confidence, an alliance forged beneath a blood-red banner. My stomach churned with unbidden realization. The truth blossomed like a rose from cemented soil. The caravan had arrived, their intentions cloaked beneath feigned loyalty. And behind me, I heard the murmurs of betrayal that echoed within my heart, echoes of relationships upon which I had relied but now felt precariously tainted. In that moment, I knew we had been plunged into a realm where even love could turn harmful, but through it I clung to one truth: the bonds we nurtured, the loyalty we built, they were under siege but would not fall without a fight. Step forward if you dare, I commanded, my voice fortifying and fierce, resonating with the authority I had scarcely known lay within me. My father stood beside me, an unwavering fortress of strength. Together we'd weather this storm, for my kingdom, my people, and to uncover the truths around it we had once thought so securely shielded. Unbeknownst to me, just beyond the shadows, two figures watched the unfolding chaos, one filled with plans, deception barely hidden beneath their facade, the other with desperation that twisted love into a weapon. With every heartbeat, I steeled myself against the encroaching storm of betrayal looming just beyond our reach. Tonight would decide it all. The echoes of the heart would summon forth our fates, the ties binding us drawing tighter or unraveling into darkness. And amidst the tension, in that fragile moment when silence danced between destinies, I prepared to fight not just the darkness but for everything I believed a queen could be. A fire ignited within me, and it would either illuminate our path or bring forth the very devastation we feared. Let this night be the turning tide, I declared, a rallying force igniting between use, love and loyalty aflame. Together, we stood ready to face whatever betrayal lay within, for we were no longer simply players in a perilous game, we were the ones shaping our own fate. And as light flickered amidst the shadows, the truth would reveal itself, unraveling with every heartfelt beat of our confrontation, a crescendo bound to echo through the annals of our lives in ways we could scarcely imagine. Because in the end, we would find the strength to stand together, heart to heart, united against the threats we faced, our love lighting the way like a beacon through the storm. For true strength resides not in the absence of fear, but in our ability to confront it, wielding courage against the darkness. And as I prepared to confront what was to come, I knew we would emerge, whether bruised or unbroken, stronger than the shadows that sought to engulf us, and forever bound by the truth we chose to uphold. Together, I whispered, my heart swelling as my voice rang clear, we embody the light. And in that moment, I understood the truth would forge the light that pierced the deepest shadows.